welcome back to this week's edition of Inside the Hive. I'm Jordan Taylor, filling in for Trevor Ault. This past weekend, our men's basketball team had a hard loss to Transylvania. Earlier today, I had the chance to catch up with head coach Kyle Brummett. Coach had a hard-fought battle this weekend in Transylvania. Freshman Jeff Hugan had his first career start, played pretty well. Would you mind talking about that?
No. Jeff has been, like so many of our young guys, contributing in different ways and growing as a player and as a person during his first year in college. The basketball thing is come along at a pretty natural progression. He's contributed in different ways. We've asked him to do some things defensively that he probably hadn't done before. Rebounding has been a much greater focus for him than it had been in his high school career. And this weekend it kind of all came together a little bit. He was defending one of the best players in the league, and did an okay job there. He rebounded really well right from the tip, which gave him a chance to play a few more minutes than he had in previous games. And he had a nice scoring game as well, which has been an area that we've struggled with, having some interior scoring. Hopefully he can finish the year like he played on Saturday, and if he does, that'll give us a real shot in the arm to try to close out the year on a positive note.
You've mentioned that you've had other freshmen have major contributions with Mason and other players of that nature. How do they mesh with your senior class?
Yeah, it's been an ongoing learning curve for everyone. Our seniors have really brought those guys along. They were put in positions of leadership, but also taking on more of a prominent role as far as playing time and scoring and things like that. And our freshmen at early in the year probably deferred to the older guys. I think that's a natural progression. They looked at those guys as having it kind of being their turn. And in sports you really can't play that way. You have to have those that are ready to step into a role, or those that can fill the role that is needed step in and do so. And I feel like as the year's gone on, we have had more guys kind of slide into what role is more natural for them. And it happens that this year our freshmen have taken on some of those prominent roles. Mason Roth has started every game as a freshman point guard. It was a position that we have struggled to fill since Mike Floyd graduated a few years ago, and there's a lot of similarities between Mike and Mason, especially in the up-tempo offense that we would like to run. Now, as all freshmen do, they've all had ups and downs. Mason has had really big games, and he would be the first to tell you that he struggled at times with the adjustment from high school to college. And Anthony Barnum has been our leader on the defensive end and our best defender throughout the year, and he's battled through guarding different types of players, which was new for him. And then he's also been hit with the injury bug, so he's had to figure out how that's going to affect not just when and where you can play, but how you play hurt a little bit and how you prepare to get back once you're out for a while. And then we've had really good contributions from Drew Frizzell and Travis Shoemaker as well at different times. And those guys are learning a lot too. They're learning how to balance the on the court and the off the court. Those two guys are kind of offensive firepower for us off the bench. And as I said with Mason, if you talk to those guys, they would be the first to tell you they've played significantly better at home than they have on the road. And I think as a young player you don't really think about that type of stuff, but that's how it works. You got to learn how to prepare and learn how to play on the road. And I think those guys have done a good job of figuring that out, and it'll really pay off for us as we go forward. But a lot of the things they've learned from our older guys, whether it be the ups and downs that the older guys have gone through, or just picking their brain, our 5 seniors and Logan being one of our junior captains.
So you mentioned firepower, and you just mentioned Logan Wolfram. It goes without saying that Logan handles most of the load.
Yeah.
How do you go about each game trying to find someone to fill as the role that you say to help Logan so he's not by himself sometimes?
It's been a little bit of from game to game. We would like to be a little bit more consistent on where is the offense going to come from. We've also struggled defensively at times, and I think when you're trying to make those defensive adjustments and make improvements, and you got to have certain changes, when you thought one thing was going to work and it just doesn't fit how your personnel has gelled together, I think it affects your offense. And Logan for 2 years now has had a lot of pressure on him on the offensive side of the ball, and I think he has had a little tougher time this year with people really focused in on him and having a year to figure out how to prepare for him. Mason has jumped into that. He probably has had to score more than we would like our point guard to have to, but he's very capable there. I think, like I said in the previous question, it's been a lot easier for our players to have success offensively at home, whether that be the familiarity of the gym or, being here all the time, sleeping in your own bed the night before. We're not exactly sure what it is. We're trying to figure it out on a regular basis. We'd like to take it with us on the bus, but we haven't been able to do that yet. But, it's nice, and we knew that our young guys were going to bring this, and at the same time, Anthony Brown has continued to be a scorer for us. He's had a little bit of an up and down year. If you notice, when we've gone on the road, even though the success hasn't shown itself in wins and losses or wins, our older guys have played better on the road, and I think that's obviously from our younger guys being more comfortable at home. It takes a few opportunities away from our older guys where they probably are more ready to be consistent. And then on the road, those guys, as the year has gone on, has been able to, kind of produce what they normally are capable of doing, whether that be Kyle TG or Kevin TG. Ryan Hicks and Brandon Ray have both played statistically better on the road than they have at home. So it's a balancing act, trying to figure it out from game to game.
You've proven that in the past, not winning regular season championships and going on to win the conference tournament. With the depth of your bench this year, getting into the tournament, how do you like your chances?
Well, you hear when you're watching basketball, whether it be on TV or talking to coaches, you hear a lot of people talk about playing their best basketball in February. And one of the reasons that teams are able to do that when they are is usually because their younger players finally hit that stride where their experience of early season starts to kick in and they can use it. I think we're still in that learning process. If in this 4 out of 6 games, if we can go 4-2 or 5-1 or 6-0, I think with those wins, confidence will kind of roll back with our team. And if this team takes the experiences that they've had, in particular with the downs that we've had this year, if we can learn from the things that we've struggled with up until this point and take them with us through this stretch while we're building confidence, we then would have to go on the road in the conference tournament, and I feel like we'd be really dangerous. You mentioned our depth, and we do have that. But I've always had a little saying with our team, it's only depth if you play well. You have a lot of question marks if you don't play well. If you have guys that haven't necessarily separated themselves, or everyone's played similarly, when they play well, it's depth. When they play poorly, it's who do I go to? And we've balanced that and tried to to figure that out, over the last month, and it's becoming a little bit more obvious. Guys are trying to step up and play a little bit more consistently. I was really disappointed a week ago Wednesday with our effort, and then we bounced back at Transylvania, and the score wasn't great, but our effort really was. And that's what I expect on Wednesday. I expect Manchester to get a great, intense effort from us, and I think we'll be able to carry that Wednesday and on.
I'd like to thank Kyle Brummett for joining me on this week's edition of Inside the Hive. If you'd like any more information about Defiance basketball or Defiance athletics, please visit defianceathletics.com. I'm Jordan Taylor, and I'll see you next week.